Welcome back to Consider This. Melisa and Sharaad here with you tonight. We're speaking to Rexy, Prakash, Chacko, as well as Murali, the co-authors of the book Creating Future-Proof Cities. Now, Sharaad, you had a question about technology.
Yeah, you know, I think it's, I mean, the pessimism aside, perhaps we look to the capacity of human beings to actually invent new things. Adaptation is actually part of our history. What do we know about the technological solutions to some of the problems, including like food wastage and the production of too much methane gas coming from rotting food?
Okay, so we talk about food, that's basically a waste issue. So there are plenty of solutions out there, waste to energy, for instance. In the past, we had issues with incinerators, dioxins, and there was a lot of resistance. But since we've come about 20, 30 years since, and there are a lot of solutions now, gasification, pyrolysis, that allows for treatment of wasted food into energy. So you don't get the methane released into the environment, but you need political buy-in, or people need to know that this is not dangerous for your health, and actually it's actually quite necessary.
Right.
And you see that it's quite successful in countries like Sweden and Switzerland, and they actually derive a lot of their energy from food waste. The downside is, then you start wasting more food, thinking that that's okay.
Okay, because you think you have a solution.
You have a solution.
So you don't need to manage
so you
your
still
behavior.
need to manage the source issue.
Okay.
You still need to reduce waste. Cities now are talking about smart city this, smart city that. And we need to link that smart city thinking into climate solutions. So even simple things like apps to help you move around. If I want to get from point A to B, how can I do it in a combination of the Rapid KL and Grab? So you can say, okay, take a train here, take it, and this is how long it take you. That kind of solutions, charging people congestion charges, RFIDs coming in, you have to pay. So technology is there, but how do you use it to push policy to change people's behavior? So
the buy-in is, so whose buy-in do you need? Do you need the buy-in of the populace, the general populace, or is it the buy-in of, say, local government or policymakers?
Okay. So I would say both, but more the general populace, because they need to be educated. If tomorrow the government says, oh, we need to start a congestion charge or a carbon tax, there's going to be riots, right? You see that in Chile, you see that in Paris, when they want to do the right thing, but there's resistance. So here, obviously, any government is wary of being dethroned in the next elections. So you need to educate the population about these issues and why these measures are important.
And on that note, I want to talk about the communication, the language that you use in writing this book. Now, Rexy, communication of climate issues is very important. I think it's a fine balance because you don't want to put people off. You want to get their buy-in. You want to educate them at the same time, but you also don't want to overwhelm them and be too alarmist and say, well, the world's coming to an end. There's nothing you can do. So what type of tone and language did you adopt in this book to encourage the most action of the readers?
I think when it comes to climate communication, you have to be able to communicate the gravity of the situation, as well as note that there is, of course, things that we can do, which we have to do, and we need to do it within this time. And what we did with this book is to actually summarize these communication in such a way that it gets to the reader and it hits straight on the action points. So that once, if someone were to just flip through the book, these are simple action steps that they can take, that they can convince their policymakers to take, and is also understandable to them. Because we need something that people can relate to, and which people can see as something which is cool and easy to do as well.
Like solutions-based communication.
I mean, are there positive stories out there? I mean, it seems that there are countries that are taking the lead. China is, interestingly enough, authoritarian state, pushing ahead on environmental strategies. In some democratic nations, are falling behind precisely because democracy is this really messy thing when you have to bring everybody along. So where do you see, what are the positive stories that can be told?
Okay, so good thing is there are small countries leading the way. So Costa Rica, Slovenia, New Zealand recently came up with a zero carbon bill, and also another country, I forget, Sweden or something. The thing is, these are small countries, smaller than Malaysia, I mean, New Zealand, what, 5 million people, you know, and they're taking great strides because they realize that they are part of this global community. Now, the thing is, there's a whole opportunity. So it's how do you paint it as an opportunity of the green economy? So we're talking about solar panel installations, transitioning our energy sources from fossil fuels to non-fossil fuels. How do you cooperate with your neighboring countries to leverage on what they have? Local producers so that you cut on the transportation, preserving your forests. I mean, Penang Hills Watch, you know, but it's not only, it's not because you're saying it because you're an environmentalist. You're actually looking after our own well-being.
Right.
Because that's your carbon sink. That's your carbon sequestration sink. So we need to protect peat swamps, mangrove swamps, and rainforest. These are like the three big carbons in that order, which we don't seem to realize their importance, you know. So there are success stories out there, and these are small countries leading the way. But if many small countries get together, that becomes the norm, and it can push the bigger players like the US, for instance. In fact, in the US, although it's a national narrative, as you can see from Trump, but the cities are doing a lot of work. So I was very lucky to have spent some time in the US. The US state government sent me there to learn, and that was kind of the catalyst behind the book. But we visited cities like Los Angeles and New Orleans, and who are doing great things to help mitigation and adaptation. And we can learn a lot from the cities.
Okay. All right. Well, in the couple minutes that we have left, I'm wondering if both of you have a message for our viewers at home. What would you like, given this book that's been newly launched, what would you like the audience to know, to understand, about the climate crisis? Rexy, why don't you start?
I think one of the things that our viewers need to know is that we still have time to act, but that gap is getting smaller and smaller. So it is important to educate ourselves, make us aware of what is happening, and also to start action, not just individually, but also to put the pressure on our policymakers so that the climate issue becomes a determining issue when it comes to the elections, and it becomes a national narrative.
Right. Yeah. I would say if you don't have children, good for you. If you have children, then I think it's best you prepare and have a you need to know what and what's going to happen. And there's also the issue of how do you communicate to your politicians.
Right.
So when you demand for action, we talk about climate action this, climate action that, climate strike. What actually are you asking? So you need to put it to the politicians or whoever your local representative may be. What kind of actions do you want in a localized area? So,
So be specific, is it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have no car, no children. I think I'm on my way to getting a Nobel Prize.
that means you can up your carbon emissions.
buy this book. Buy this book and read it.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much, gentlemen, for being on the show. We appreciate your time in explaining some of those, key issues about the climate crisis. That's all the time we have on Consider This for tonight's episode. I'm Melisa Idris, with me Sharaad Kuttan, signing off. Thank you for watching, and good night.